Hi, Sally-Shakti, and this is your astrology and tarot reading for your writing week ahead. And it's Monday, 13th of February until Sunday, the 19th, or Monday, the 20th. So this week we are experiencing the waning moon. It's just coming into the last quarter today in Scorpio, and it will be going right down to the dark moon on Sunday and the new moon in Pisces on Monday. I noticed that the moon, as it makes its way down in its last quarter phase, all the way now through this last quarter of the zodiac from Scorpio into Aquarius and then Pisces, it's going to make quite a few squares on its way. And it also makes quite a few trines and sextiles. The moon is making a lot of aspects with a lot of planets, some more kind of positive, more creating flow. The trines will be creating flow, and the squares will be creating some tension. And why I mention that with the moon is because the moon is often a reflection of how we feel internally, our own internal, especially our own internal emotional world and our emotional reality, or at least perspective. So again, like last week, that it could feel very, pretty volatile. There are lots of positive aspects coming up and lots of tense aspects as well. And at the moment, I'm pretty focused on those squares because I'm feeling a lot of internal tension myself. I noticed that today the moon will be square to the sun and then to Saturn. And that energy for me feels like a tension that's showing up in terms of how I move forward, especially with the moon squaring the sun. I'm feeling a tension in terms of how I move forward, in terms of how I show up, particularly through my business and my offerings and what I'm creating. That also relates to the recent full moon in Leo that we just had. So that question is still, that inquiry is still live of how do we desire to show up and shine. And this moon squaring the sun today in its last quarter waning aspect in the sign of Scorpio is really showing up for me in terms of what are the blocks to how I'm showing up in the world, what I'm creating. So in terms of a writing project, in terms of your writing project, perhaps you might be experiencing similarly some fears, some procrastinations, some deep level blocks to what it is that you want to write and create and put out there in the world, perhaps what you want to say and how you want to show up. That is then followed later this evening by the moon squaring to Saturn. And again, for me, this feeling like a tension in the foundations I'm creating financially. Part of me, the sun part, the Leo part, I've got Leo rising, that full moon in Leo that we recently had is driving me to push forward and take risks and to start creating what I really want to create for this year, for this particular cycle of the seasons. And I also can feel in myself a deep fear around that, to really take the risks to create what I want to create is a big risk. And I can sense that that's where the growth is, but I can sense also that there's a part of me that wants to stay very much secure and comfortable in what I already know and what I already have. But I also strongly sense that taking the risks is where the growth is. So that's the tension that's showing up for me today, and especially with the moon in its waning phase and in the sign of Scorpio, down in the depths. It's down in the emotional depths of what is lurking really kind of deep below the surface. And last night, for my own reading, I pulled the moon reversed in relationship to the Seven of Pentacles reversed. And again, both of those cards really inviting me to be present with this discomfort. The moon really invites us into the moon card really invites us into that inquiry, to be present with the discomfort and to really make an inquiry, an internal inquiry into what is at the depths of this emotional discomfort. And I'm just thinking myself that the moon card is ruled by the sign of Pisces, and we're moving towards the dark moon and then the new moon in Pisces. So I feel like there is significance in this last quarter moon to really be exploring, going with this invitation from Scorpio to explore what is underneath, what's at the depth, what's at the root of any fears or procrastinations or blocks that we might be feeling, or that you might be feeling, or that I'm feeling, in relation to what we want to create, what we want to put out, what we want to write, and how that's showing up for us in terms of our ability to not only sit with the discomfort, but also to continue to show up and create and to write and to be present with our projects, so that we can continue to take steps towards our goals and take risks where they're necessary, or where they're showing up as being pertinent to the way forward. And I mentioned that as well, I guess, because so today I'm working with the Erotic Tarot by Sofie Birkin, because we are in the week of Valentine's Day. We're in Valentine's week. And as I was shuffling the deck, preparing to start this video, card that fell out for our collective reading today is the Knight of Feathers. Now, the Knight of Feathers in this deck relates to the Knight of Swords, and the Knight of Swords is an invitation to move quickly, or to allow ourselves to be in the flow of the energy of air and the movement of air that is fast moving and that's going to move us forward, particularly on an intellectual level, or the level of intellect, the level of mind, the level of speech, the level of communication. It's fast moving. And we also still have Mercury direct as well, gathering pace, having moved out of its shadow. This card as well, as it is in the Erotic Tarot depicted by Sofie Birkin, suggests to me that the Knight of Feathers, which I'm taking to be this feathered character here, the Knight of Feathers is also about taking action, taking control of our circumstances. And I suppose this picture depicts a sense of becoming dominant, but of course, what I'm reading from this is that it's not about becoming dominant over others. The invitation here always, in these erotic tarot cards and in any kind of erotic work or tantra work that I have been working with, is that it's consensual. So there's always the element of consent that's involved, and this card is not inviting any of us to literally tie up another person, whether consensual or not, although you might want to explore that on Valentine's Day. This card for me is about taking ownership of our situation and actually putting ourselves in the driver's seat of our current circumstances, so that we can move a project forward, and so that we can come into a certain level of autonomy around what it is that we want to create, what we are intending to create. In a consensual erotic situation such as this one, I imagine that the dominant partner, the Knight of Feathers, has asked for and stated what they want, and that the submissive partner is in consent to that. So it's about asking for what we want. especially with it being the Knight of Swords, we've got this strong air energy, this strong air element of saying what we want, saying what we need, taking action, taking courage, putting ourselves in a position where we are able to have a certain amount of control over our outcomes to a certain extent. And it's about being able to move forward with intention. And also it's about being in the process of allowing and accepting the movement forward that is already happening. So certain amount of the tension that I'm feeling today is that I feel like I'm blocking some of the movement that already wants to happen. So in our writing projects, how can we allow the movement that needs to happen? How can we maybe say what needs to be said, even when we feel perhaps some fear or some tension, some procrastination about actually saying what needs to be said or what we want to say. I know with a lot of the people I mentor who are writing their PhD thesis, it's always that there's a pressure around the tense balance between saying what you want to say and saying what you feel is appropriate to say, and that tension, that place of tension is actually where the original contribution comes from. It's where you actually are being brave enough to say what is true for you and what is your position in relation to the field of inquiry. So my invitation to you this week is to be present with any discomfort you may be feeling around your writing projects, your creative project, the energy of momentum as it's showing up for you, whether that feels like it's moving too fast, not moving fast enough. How can you align yourself with the energy of momentum that is showing up for you, particularly in relation to creativity and communication, speaking your truth, speaking your needs, and being fully present with not only the discomfort, but also the need and the desire to move your writing forward and to move your project forward and put it out there in the world to a certain extent. You know, to how can you stay with the invitation of this Leo full moon to show up and shine, and also meet with the fears, resistances, unconscious doubts and blocks that might be this week pulling you down into a more interior space, into a more internalized space. How can we stay with that tension and continue to move our writing projects forwards and our creative projects forward this week? So that's quite a heady reading. What I want to shift into as well is that this week we have Valentine's Day, which is why I'm using the erotic tarot this week. And my invitation to you is that I'm creating an offer on my one-to-one soul alchemy tarot and journaling readings. If you would like a reading with me, a personal reading for your own energy, particularly for your writing project or perhaps for your own personal energies, book with me now. And I've got an offer on for all bookings that are all sessions that are booked between the 14th and the 28th of February. So if you want to have a one-to-one session with me, a personal reading where we'll look into your personal astrology and the energy of the tarot that's coming up for you around your particular writing project or your personal creative project, take a look at the offer down below and send me a message. Get booked in before by the 28th of February, and we can do you a deal on that. All right, sending you lots of love.